You're an African-American, successful business person. You're the secretary of HUD. You work for President Trump. Is he racist?
He is not racist at all.
Did you see that level of composure? That right there is what true professionalism and steady leadership look like, especially in a modern media environment where loud voices tend to drown out clear thinking. While so many public figures rush to argue, interrupt, and escalate every disagreement into a headline, Dr. Ben Carson chose a completely different path. He stayed calm, stayed focused, and broke everything down with a quiet confidence that spoke louder than any raised voice ever could. His ability to stick to facts, avoid emotional traps, and remain respectful under pressure is something we rarely get to see these days, and it immediately sets the tone for the conversation. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're diving into two clips that you probably won't see highlighted on the major networks, and that's exactly why they're worth looking at closely. First, we're examining HUD Secretary Ben Carson as he lays out a clear, structured explanation of his policies. No dramatics, no deflection, just straightforward answers that cut through the noise. His approach gives us a refreshing reminder of what public communication can look like when someone chooses clarity over conflict. After that, we'll shift to a compelling moment from Dr. Kanta Ahmed. Her commentary completely reframes the current political conversation by addressing who is actually experiencing pressure and scrutiny in Washington. Rather than relying on talking points, Dr. Ahmed brings first-hand experience and insight that challenge the simplified narrative circulating online and in television debates. Her perspective widens the lens and forces viewers to consider angles that often go unexplored. If you're tired of the constant outrage cycles, staged arguments, and soundbite battles that dominate the airwaves, then you're in the right place. Here, we focus on the material that has substance, the kind that encourages people to think, compare, question, and ultimately understand what's really happening. So do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps push factual, grounded content to more people who want clarity instead of chaos. Alright, let's jump in and take a closer look at how Dr. Carson responds to the tough questions with steady, measured precision, proving once again that sometimes calm really is more powerful than confrontation.
Escalation in President Trump's showdown with the four progressive congresswomen known as the Squad as their Twitter battle continues to blow up social media. Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar tweeted this last night. You all should end this charade and accept that this racist president wants every black, brown person deported and Muslims banned. His immigration policies say this much. The president tweeted this morning, I don't believe the four congresswomen are capable of loving our country. They should apologize to America and Israel for their horrible, hateful things that they've said. They are destroying the Democrat Party, but are weak and insecure people who can never destroy our great nation. Ben Carson is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and he joins me right now. And Mr. Secretary, it's good to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
What
Maria.
a fight. Oh, my goodness. So, look, you're an African-American, successful business person. You're the secretary of HUD. You work for President Trump. Is he racist?
He is not racist at all. The first time I met him, it was before we got into politics, was down at Mar-a-Lago. And he and I were talking, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart is here. And he said, yeah, but this is Ben Carson. That's the kind of person he is. and you may remember when we were running for president at one of the debates, and I couldn't hear my name announced, so I was standing there. Everybody else gleefully walked past me, but Trump stood right next to me until they straightened it out. That's the kind of person that he is. He lived in New York. Jesse Jackson gave him an award for the incredible things that he had done in the African-American community. I have never seen anything that even resembles racism. And look at the policies that have been done. And look at the people who have been helped. Black unemployment at the lowest level ever. Same thing for Hispanics. You look at the fact that he is engaged so much in second chance for people. Things that other people talked about, but he has done. Opportunity zones where people who've made enormous amounts of money have the opportunity to take unrealized capital gains and to plow them into the areas of the country that have traditionally been neglected. It's what's been done. It's not what's been said or how it's been interpreted and hashed over and over in the media.
But Secretary, look at this tweet that Ilhan Omar has put out. I mean, this is an elected congresswoman. An elected position that says that, the president wants every black and brown person deported. every Muslim ban. How is this possible that an elected official can get away with saying this as if this is fact?
Well, you know, there is a radical element. I don't want to talk about a specific congressperson because of the Hatch Act, but, you know, there is a radical element that has been introduced into our legislative body that seems to be intent on pushing their ideology. And they have an accomplice in the media in doing so. And this is very detrimental to our country. You know, I think, you know, we should be having a conversation with the media, and they should be having a conversation themselves, asking themselves, why is it that the press is the only business that has been protected by our Constitution? And the reason is because they were supposed to disseminate objectively to the people of America real information upon which they could make decisions. They were not supposed to try to manipulate people. So, you know, there are the radical element that is taking advantage of the ideological bent of the media, and it's unfair to the people. But as Thomas Jefferson said, the people will come through. The people will be smart enough to figure this out. I hope that's true.
Well, I mean, I agree with that sentiment. This dysfunction is certainly not serving the people, that's for sure. Secretary, before you go, a word on housing. We just saw housing numbers which showed that home ownership in the black community is now at an all-time low, while Hispanics are actually driving the housing market, increasing numbers in terms of home ownership. Can you characterize what you're seeing? We're about to speak with Brian Moynihan, the chairman and CEO of Bank of America, largest mortgage originator. I'd like to get your take in terms of housing right now before we speak with Mr. Moynihan coming up in the program.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, black home ownership has declined significantly, particularly because of the housing crisis. You know, people took advantage of a lot of people who did not have a lot of wherewithal in terms of financial knowledge about housing. And, you know, by manipulating debt-to-income ratios and the various types of manipulations for credit that were done, they put people into houses that they couldn't afford.
I see.
Which is not doing anybody any favor. You lose your house, you lose your credit, you lose your future opportunities. We're still recovering from that. And it is very important that we do what we can to get people back into housing, because the average net worth of a renter is $5,000. The average net worth of a homeowner is $200,000.
Yeah.
40-fold difference. That accounts for a lot of the income gap that we are seeing, and we're working very hard to correct that.
All right, we will talk more about that. I just found it interesting that Hispanics are doing so well, and you're seeing such a difference in terms of the black community. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
My next guest is an American Muslim doctor. She says Congresswoman Omar is an embarrassment and a disgrace to the Muslim community. Joining me now is Dr. Kanta Ahmed, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and a counselor at the USC Shoah Foundation. Doctor, you also say that Omar is not the victim she portrays herself to be. Great to have you on. Why is that?
It's just diabolical that she commits yet another violence against the families of survivors of 9/11 and the families of victims of 9/11. Foremost, I'm a physician who takes care of people that have survived or had diseases complicated by the World Trade Center attacks. That was devastating remarks that I actually heard while I was in Africa, in Rwanda, commemorating a genocide there. She is depicting in this diminishment what I would describe as a profound denial of 9/11. And as you know, I work a lot with anti-Semitism, and it reminds me of the mentality of Holocaust deniers, or as we've seen in Rwanda, there are some who would deny the genocide there too. So this denial raises in me a couple of questions. Does she really think 9/11 was not an Islamist, jihadist attack which came from within the Muslim fold? The Quran tells us, Islam tells us, we must be strict in observing justice, even if it means bearing witness against ourselves, against our kith and our kin. And it also tells us we have to do that with impartiality. We cannot be biased if we have certain prejudices. She harbors prejudices. She diminished the worst attack on this country since Pearl Harbor, and she does an assault on my patients, on all families who are grieving for their survivors. It's despicable. Worse is that opponents, whether in her party or not, are shielding her from the kind of searing criticism she deserves.
Well, Dr. Ahmed, we're going to have an entire hour on just this conversation of Islam in the world today, especially its role in America. And this conversation should focus on the facts. You just laid out a whole bunch of them. We really appreciate your being with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. And if I can just say, this observation of denying 9/11 was made to me when we discussed this in Rwanda with Muslims, with African Muslims.
We're going to keep this conversation going, but we appreciate your joining us.
There's a lot happening in this discussion, so let's start by focusing on Dr. Ben Carson. One of the things that consistently stands out about him is the way he avoids getting pulled into emotional back and forths. In this interview, he's pressed with direct questions about accusations raised by Representative Ilhan Omar and other members of the congressional group often referred to in political discussions. And instead of reacting defensively or escalating the tension, he stays steady and turns the entire conversation back toward measurable outcomes and established policy. Carson highlights something that frequently gets overlooked in high-energy political debates: results. He points to historically low unemployment rates among Black and Hispanic Americans during the period in question, and he breaks down how certain policy tools, like opportunity zones, are designed to bring real investment into neighborhoods that have been underserved for decades. These aren't abstract promises. They're initiatives that aim to generate long-term economic activity. From Carson's perspective, the most effective way to evaluate leadership is to look at what is actually being achieved rather than relying solely on rhetoric. He argues that if the administration's intentions were as negative as some claim, you wouldn't simultaneously see targeted economic efforts aimed at expanding opportunity in minority communities. He even addresses the criticism coming from the more outspoken progressive members of Congress, noting that their framing often ignores or dismisses these measurable developments. His remarks on financial literacy are also important. Carson emphasizes the value of helping individuals transition from long-term renting to sustainable homeownership, an approach that can create generational stability. He stresses that closing this gap isn't just an economic concept. It's a pathway to building lasting wealth and strengthening family futures. That's the kind of conversation that often gets pushed aside in political arguments but has a real impact on people's lives. Then we shift to Dr. Kanta Ahmed, whose clip brings a very different but equally compelling tone. If Dr. Carson provided a steady, methodical breakdown, Dr. Ahmed delivered a direct, assertive challenge to some of the narratives circulating in Washington. As a respected physician and someone who has worked closely with national and global policy institutions, she presents her view with both professional insight and personal conviction. In her remarks, she argues that political figures shouldn't be shielded from evaluation simply because criticism is uncomfortable. She draws historical comparisons to emphasize the dangers of dismissing discussion altogether, stressing that accountability is essential in any democratic environment. One of her strongest points comes when she references religious principles to underscore the importance of fairness and honesty, even when they require evaluating someone from within your own cultural or faith community. Her message is clear: public officials should be open to scrutiny based on their policies and statements, not exempt from it. Together, Dr. Carson and Dr. Ahmed present a powerful combination of perspectives. Carson focuses on concrete policy outcomes and long-term economic strategies, while Ahmed highlights the responsibility of leaders to engage honestly with criticism and public concern. Both cut through the noise and offer thoughtful viewpoints that contrast sharply with the high-tension narratives dominating many headlines. Their combined message suggests that some of the political tension we see today arises not from the facts themselves, but from how those facts are interpreted, framed, or sometimes overshadowed. When debates rely more on confrontation than evaluation, it becomes easy to overlook meaningful progress or important context. Oh, here's the real question for all of you. Did Dr. Carson's calm, fact-based approach resonate more with you, or did Dr. Ahmed's direct and passionate analysis carry the strongest impact? I'd love to know your take. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want more clear, balanced breakdowns like this. I'll see you in the next video.